Thank you very much. I've got apologies from councillors Chen, Swiggs and Kewen for lateness. Would someone like to move that they be accepted? Glenn Livingston, seconded Tim Scandrett. I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. I haven't had any declarations of interest, although I think, Tim, your declaration of interest on one of the SOIs later in the meeting. Sorry? Right, okay, and yeah, so Christchurch NZ and Rod Donald Trust, so these are SOIs in the PX part of the meeting. CCHL and CCHL directors for the CCHL. Thank you. So we'll move on to public participation, and I'd like to invite Peter Richardson and Genevieve Robinson of Aotearoa Water Action to come forward for a public presentation. Welcome.
Thanks, Your Worship and councillors. I think most of you probably know what our group, Aotearoa Water Action, is doing. We've brought proceedings to overturn two water bottling consents granted in Belfast, North Canterbury by ECAN. Those proceedings have been filed and they're underway at the moment. We've got a fundraising campaign going. So you probably know what it's about, and I just wanted to talk very quickly about why we're bringing these proceedings. For us, it's not really about the economic interests that are playing around that. It's about, firstly, water safety, and secondly, water sovereignty. And thirdly, also calling our regulator to account where, in our view, they've slipped up in terms of their processes. So we're wanting to hold them to account and make sure they follow proper process. So water safety, that's really about making sure that we have sufficient high quality water supplies from our aquifers to supply not only this generation and the generation to come, but 7 generations ahead. So we're looking ahead for the future of Christchurch and making sure that we have water safety. It's also about environmental safety, making sure that the depletion of the aquifers, making sure that contamination of the aquifers isn't an issue that's going to affect neighbouring water bodies and to affect the environment, because it is a very sensitive environment, that one out there, as we've already seen with that contamination of Kapitoni Stream. Water sovereignty is about making sure that the community can meet its needs itself and not be reliant on water bottling companies to meet our need for drinking water in generations to come. That's a problem that's evident right around the world. People are unable to turn on a tap and get clean, high quality water. We don't want to see that happen in Christchurch. We have brought these proceedings. The crux of our argument is that ECAN failed to follow correct procedures. In fact, it failed to even follow its own procedures. It adopted a device, we would say, that enabled it to grant these consents in a way that wasn't authorised by the Resource Management Act and wasn't authorised by its own Land and Water Regional Plan. So that's the crux of our argument. At the moment, we're challenging consents to take water from existing bores. Some of them are as shallow as 20 metres, 33 metres, but we are aware that one of the applicants has also applied for and been granted a consent to sink a bore at 170 metres. We know it's public knowledge. I think the council has flagged its concern about this potentially affecting Christchurch's drinking water supplies, and that is a concern for us too. Our concern is also that there's a huge amount of investment being put into these applications by the water bottling companies. We believe there's been a lot of consultation with ECAN in the past, and we believe that there is a lot of will to ensure that this goes forward. We're hoping to head this off at the path, and we're hoping that our proceedings will be successful. We'd like you to get on our pages to share our campaigns widely and to do what you can to support us. Thank you. I'll hand over to Genevieve.
Genevieve, welcome.
Hi, how are you, Your Worship? I'm actually here on behalf of 112,000 people. In December, I actually started a petition on the campaign just mentioned by Peter. 112,000 people have signed, a lot of them New Zealanders, a lot of them Cantabrians. They also are very concerned at the situation with the bottling plants. A lot of people are unsure who's involved in it. We've got foreign investors and we've also got New Zealand investors. The two wellheads and bores are adjacent to each other, and they have consent to draw 24 million litres a day. So I'm quite visual. Imagine a 1 litre bottle, 24 million times, and that's every single day. So yes, the legal action mentioned, we need $40,000 to run it. So the Pledge Me page is part of our campaign to cover our legal costs. We're actually all volunteers running this, so the legal cost is pretty much the only thing we need to cover. So far we're around $25,000. We need another 15 or so to cover our costs. So we've got Pledge Me up and running. We've got a bank account up and running under Aotearoa Water Action. You'll have all the information in front of you electronically, which was handed out this morning. Thank you. And just follow us on Facebook. This is really a campaign for everybody, including everyone in New Zealand. That's our precedent. We want to be the voice for everyone here. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the documentation that you refer to is on the hub. So if people would like to have a look at that, I think that the message that we're getting from you is that you would like councillors to be sharing that information through social media. I mean, obviously this meeting's being live streamed, so it's an opportunity to link to the presentation. I guess I've just got a couple of minutes for a quick question. Yanni?
Thank you for what you're doing. There used to be a fund that the government had, I think, an environmental legal aid assistance fund. Yeah. Are you aware of any sort of funds that exist to help communities go to the Environment Court or the Court of Appeal around these sorts of planning matters?
The problem with that fund is that it's only for action through the Environment Court.
Yeah, so this is a judicial review.
Yeah, this is a judicial review, which is a High Court proceeding, so we don't have that available.
It's actually a bit of a gap in the system. Yeah,
it is. Yeah,
I was just going to ask if you'd talk to our staff as well about being able to get council funding. I mean, I'm not sure if we have a policy around it.
There isn't council funding for actions such as this,
right.
but I have made the offer open for council staff to talk to you. I think some of our legal people were going to do so.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. But thank you. Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Okay. Well, look. Thank you very much for taking the opportunity for presenting. All the very best.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Sure.
See you.
Thank you. Oh, lovely.
Yeah. Chris Lynch was chatting about it this morning. So.
Excellent. Thank you. The next one is a presentation of petitions, which we have none. We've got approval of a conservation covenant consent for the property at 14 Y Street, Addington. This went to Social, Community and Development Housing Committee. So, Phil, could you introduce this one, please?
Yeah, Leanne, this is very straightforward. It's really about just a readjustment of a boundary and involving a very small piece of land. So, in effect, it's almost like I understand, like a land swap. So, I think it's a very straightforward report.
Right. And you'd like to move it?
I'll move it.
Do I have a seconder? Glenn? Sarah, you wanted to raise an issue around the potential for this to sit as a delegation.
Yeah, I think it makes sense in these kind of circumstances for the delegation over the covenants to sit with the committee themselves. I mean, council approves any of the funding above 150,000, although I'd be happy with all of the funding to sit with the committee. And I think it makes sense for the committee just to do the sort of paperwork stuff that goes with that.
Okay, so can we just add a second item to this? I think Clearwater and Livingston councillors are happy with this, just to request staff to report on the delegation, on where the delegation should sit with the on whether the delegation could sit with the committee on matters such as this, and as part of the work that they're doing on delegations that are required, that are covered by statute, you know, so this is a statutory one, so, yeah. Request staff to report on whether the delegation can sit with the committee. That'll do, because we've got, yeah. Cool. All right, so I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Brendan, for your stunning contribution to the meeting. The next item, oh sorry, I missed all of the minutes, so would someone like to move all the minutes? Andrew seconded Mike, put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Next one, Capital Endowment Fund 2, that went to Finance and Performance. Raf, just in time. Yep. Happy to move it. Do I have a seconder? Mike. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. And the second one, again, over to you, Raf. We've just changed one of the recommendations at the end, number 8. Number 8, so just asking for advice on the previous allocations. This is for the inflation-adjusted component following the earthquake by the end of May 2018, and that way the decision that comes back to council on that matter can be factored into the LTP. Yep. So you're happy to move? Do I have a seconder? Jamie? Phil? Question?
I have got a question. It's in relation to the recommendation 5B, and just clarification for the civic and community projects part. Because it just seems to me that with government having supported the 4 wellbeings, that if possible we should include, well, can we include concepts like social and cultural wellbeing as part of the benefit? I guess that's a question of staff, just to make sure we get that right.
Well, look, the first one, the first category picks up economic or environmental benefits. So
quite specifically.
The second one,
could we just pop in there social and cultural benefit for the city?
Yeah, we could put social and cultural benefit as long as that's as wide as a benefit.
That's the question, and I just wonder if I just want like staff view on that.
What I don't want is to limit it.
Precisely, I'm the same.
And so the question I would ask back to you is, do we need to add in social and cultural, given that a benefit includes social and cultural?
Well, it should, and I guess I was really just wanting clarification.
Well, let's not put it that way. Hang on.
Benefit
go
including
back.
Social
Go back. Evidence that the project demonstrates a benefit, including social and cultural, for the city of Christchurch, and including the social and cultural well-being, including social and cultural well-being. No, in brackets, including. Yeah.
Mayor,
What wouldn't?
this fund is quite specific. I mean, you have a fund, whatever the metropolitan grants, strengthening communities. This is split between economic development and civic and community projects. It kind of includes a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, I know. I don't think it's necessary at all. I'm trying to be helpful.
Well,
there is a fear that it would limit it.
Well, I wonder what the staff view though is about that. That was my question really. I should have said, look,
because we're the ones who make the decisions, Phil. So there's no point asking staff advice as to whether, from a legal point of view, the word including limits or frames
or excludes.
Or excludes. Oh, yeah, but then why point? Okay.
Well,
I'm of the view that it needs to come out, so take it out. And
I think it's best to take it out.
I cannot think of a social and or cultural benefit that is not included in the words a benefit.
Correct. Yeah, look, my reason for asking this was so that in fact the fund is linked with the Local Government Act and those 4 wellbeings, that's all, but I don't want to exclude any benefit either.
This is not rates income at all.
Well,
It actually enables us to go way beyond that, and it's and innovation and
So you have been specific.
in fact, what's missing from A is the word innovation. So evidence of the economic or environmental benefits. It should be evidence of the innovation, economic or environmental benefits, because innovation may not be necessarily an immediate economic benefit. Yeah. Yanni and then Glenn.
Yeah, I mean, it is a bit weird that we're requiring evidence before these projects are even done. I would have thought evidence is kind of the thing that comes after you've done the project, so you can monitor it. But I just, given that it's been raised, I just wondered if staff had any advice on when the fund was established. We went through quite a rigorous public consultation about how the city wanted to spend the money, and we had a specific SCP. And given that we're making some significant changes,
They're not significant
around the
changes.
process and possibly around the inflation adjustment, have staff considered, once we get that further work back, a sort of public process to engage the community about how they see this money could be spent?
So you are asking how the money could be spent, or whether there's consultation needed?
Whether they would see any consultation needed around, particularly going into the inflation adjustment, but also if we were to change some of the things
We
that have been
already
suggested.
have provision to go into the inflation adjustment with 80%
Right.
support,
Yeah.
and that is going to come back to council for a decision.
Right,
There
I
is
understand
no
that.
need to go back out for a special consultative procedure, because this is simply formulating a set of criteria that were assumed rather than explicit.
So I
We
was just-
changed the definition last year.
No, I understand that, but if we were making changes, so people have proposed making changes to some of the criteria, and all I was asking is, would the staff see a need to go out and consult if we changed some of the provisions to the criteria?
You'll remember at the committee when this was discussed, there was no suggestion from the officers responsible that consultation would be needed, that this was all within the board policy of the fund already. So there was no suggestion.
We could move an amendment to change some of the criteria without any consultation.
As long as it's not a significant change.
It would depend on the significance.
Right, so I've got someone moving this resolution. Jamie seconded it, good. Glenn, you had a...
Yeah, thank you. I obviously in the schedule of what it has been used for, you know, big money's gone to things like golf tournaments. So would those get through again with this? Is that the purpose of the fund, that it is so broad that...
We've asked for advice on the previous allocations following the earthquake for precisely the reason that we don't want to get into a debate today about any of those elements. We are not making decisions on allocation. The fund is fully allocated. That is why we've asked for advice on the inflation adjusted component for the next 3 years. And that will come back here before the end of May, so we can make a decision before the LTP is concluded.
Can I also comment on that there was a working group about 2 years ago that went through all of the criteria for this, and the council had accepted and changed the criteria. The golf tournaments predate that change in criteria.
Yeah. All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Performance reporting for February 2018. That also went through finance and performance. Raf, over to you. I think, could you introduce the report?
Yeah, this went through the finance committee a couple of weeks ago. The main thing really to come out of it, this is a monthly report, and I'm not sure it's actually delivering that much in terms of outcomes, because it's only reporting the levels of service which are not being met, and they seem to be the same ones every month, so that's not really telling us a great deal. But what we did discuss at the committee was actually reviewing the levels of service as soon as possible, and I think that's clearly a piece of work that didn't really go as we would have liked during the LTP process. So and I agree, I think we should get on with that. I mean, from what I see, there's not going to be a huge number of submissions, so we may actually have a bit of spare time that's been allocated for hearings, and we can actually get on and work with that. And I think also, it's not just reviewing the levels of service. For me, it's actually reviewing how we present this information.
Yeah.
You know, the financial information and then the levels of service, so that it's actually accessible for the public to understand what we're spending money on, why we're spending the money, and what the outcome of that spend is.
Yeah.
At the moment, I just don't think it does.
Well, at the moment, it's reporting by exception. Yeah. So, so you'd like to move the report?
Yes.
Seconded by David East. Is there any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Thanks very much. It was a good committee, actually. It was a really good meeting. Health and Safety Committee, the quarterly health, safety and wellbeing update. Who am I inviting to chair? Jamie, could you report on this one?
Yes, there's only one part A to it, and that's actually just the changing of the name. The point of that is that it's look, health and safety is all about culture, so I think having an alignment of terms inside the organisation is quite important. So internally and at a management and operational level, it's referred to as health, safety and wellbeing. So we just thought it made sense to call the governance monitoring body the same as what it's called inside the organisation. Other than that, really what we're focusing on is continual improvement and benchmarking. Also, lag indicators are really easy to report, so the challenge to staff is to place an emphasis on those lead indicators. And finally, we're also really keen on getting follow-ups and the remedial action. So silly people doing silly things isn't going to cut the mustard, or someone slipped on a step, end of story. That's not enough. We need to know what you learned from it and what's being done as a result of it. So that's really where we're at. And just for privacy, obviously, for the privacy around employees, the names and all the incidents aren't made public, but I think everyone can appreciate why. Yeah. So I'm happy to move it.
Yeah, happy to move that, and seconded by David East. I was just going to sort of share with you, it was an item that I picked up on a course that I was on, and it was one of the participants who was describing how difficult sometimes it is to change the culture of a large organisation, to get them to take responsibility for reporting and what was described as near misses. And the reason was that people didn't really feel that there was a need to, but actually you learn so much from near misses, as much if not more from them than you do from actual accidents.
And that's the lead indicators like we're talking about as well. But our reporting culture, I'm pleased to say, is actually really good, and I think this started a couple of years ago. So we saw a spike. If you look at our TRIFR, or the total recorded incident frequency rates, they were higher a wee way back, and there was a big spike, and it was really around that reporting. So it's not a bad thing to see. It means that people are more aware of it. And
no, but I was going to tell you how they turned it around to get really high levels of reporting, and that is they changed the language from near misses to good catches. Yeah, and even just the change in language actually gave people a sense of ownership of the culture, which is, it was a good catch, and so it was a positive to report rather than a negative.
That is a good one for the suggestion box. And actually, funnily you mentioned that, because I'm quite keen to see implemented in our committee as well. A good lead indicator too is, and about engaging the culture and getting people thinking about it, is the suggestions. What are some safety suggestions? And when people are thinking about it and putting suggestions forward, that's exactly the culture that we want to see.
Absolutely.
So that's the first suggestion for the
suggestion
Thank you.
box. I'm very pleased. It wasn't my idea, but it's a great one. All right, I shall put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That is carried. The next one is the Community Organisation Loan Scheme. And did that go through a committee? No.
It doesn't come straight here.
Do they come straight to council? Yeah, okay. All right. So would someone like to move this? This is over in the Cashmere direction. I suppose Tim Scandrett would like to move it, and Phil Clearwater would like to second it. Is there any discussion? Phil.
Look, it's a strong club with a strong financial background, and the application is fine. What I'm interested in, though, is that a number of organisations, apply for this, and I'm just not sure from staff how widespread the loan scheme fund is made to all other organisations and clubs. That's all. So it'd be useful to get a steer on that at some stage.
We can't the officer's not here, we can't give you that, but we can send you an update on how many applications and which are percentage successful and where they distribute it.
Yep. Thanks, Mary.
Very good. Glenn, Pauline.
Thank you. Just a bit curious. 490 in accumulated funds, outstanding loan with the council, net cash of 30, pavilion depreciation is in there. I mean, it's been assessed, but they appear to be quite well endowed in cash.
Yes, so they have to be well endowed to prove that they can furnish a loan and take on the capital work. So that's what the criteria is not.
This is not a grant.
This isn't a grant. This is a loan. They need to know that the group's sustainable enough to be able to build the project and repay the loan.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Pauline.
Yes, I'm just wondering that when we have our Strengthening Communities applications, people can only really apply to one thing a year kind of thing. Otherwise they're termed double dipping, and they already have a loan. Do we not have that criteria for this?
No, not for this
So
fund.
people can make multiple applications for multiple loans?
Yes.
Right.
Right. Is there any further discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Thank you very much. The next one is the draft submission on the Land Transport Management Regional Fuel Tax Amendment Bill. The note that I will just bring to your attention is the way the draft submission is worded doesn't impact on Council's consideration on this issue through the LTP process. We haven't actually formally consulted on adding a regional fuel tax, a specific proposal. What we've done is we've gone out and asked people what they think of the idea. The way the bill is drafted is that we wouldn't be able to take advantage of that in this term. So we're making a submission that just simply says we want to open it up for consideration if we decide to go down that track. But that is not something that we can do under the bill as drafted. Have I got that kind of correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Excellent. Right, so would someone like to move this? I think Vicky would like to move this one, wouldn't you? The draft submission on the regional fuel tax bill. Well, he's not here. Dion's late. Well, he might miss the whole meeting at this rate. Pauline seconded. I'll put that motion. David.
I was just going to ask a question. I mean, I'm quite supportive of the submission, but whether in fact we need to be angling government for a level playing field over fuel costs in the country anyway. I mean, if you drive through the middle of the bloody wire wrapper, you are paying fuel at probably the level of fuel tax less than we are paying now. And you go to Masterton in the middle of the North Island, miles away from any distribution centres, and you pay fuel at a level that's probably anything up to 10 to 15 cents a litre less than we are paying here. So whilst we are looking for methods to fund things through other means than rates, I think it's quite unfair in the country that we in the South Island are already paying fuel at a higher premium than other places in the country, and then our residents may be asked to fund things through a regional fuel tax on top of that, where in other places in the country they're already paying fuel at substantially less prices than we are now. So I'm quite in favour of considering other means of funding territorial authorities, and this could well be one. I'm not saying that in the end I'm absolutely going to support it, but I think we need a level playing field for a starter, and we haven't got that. So I have some reservations in supporting regional fuel taxes when the price of fuel across the country is not on a level playing field for a starter.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a matter of the, you know, the lack of competition in the South Island as compared to the North Island.
You know,
the government doesn't control it.
Have suggested they're going to look into it, but it goes into the too hard basket all the time.
Well, I was the Minister of Commerce. We did a control inquiry. We did an inquiry into it, and there is more competition with more companies in the North Island than there are in the South Island. We are a victim of the lack of the competitive market down here. If Gull was down in the South Island, prices would be cheaper.
And we can't even get parity.
Could I just propose that we actually, because I do have sympathy with what Councillor East is saying, can we just make a submission point in that regard to the submission?
This is the Land Transport Management Regional Fuel Tax Amendment Bill.
Yes,
we cannot add a submission on a completely unrelated matter.
We've done this previously, like with the alcohol submission. We actually put at the end of the submission matters outside of the specific, but just to note.
No, things that were capable of being included in the legislation.
Not in the proposed draft. So
No, but it's not capable of being included in this bill. It's a land transport management bill. It's amending the Land Transport Management Act. Trust me, there is nothing in there about the competition around petrol.
And my understanding was that the government had already announced some sort of inquiry into it again. So I don't know.
But that would be the Minister of Commerce. It wouldn't even be the same minister.
Then let's get another report and make a submission to that other process.
Whatever, but not on this. Not on this. You know, I know that there are councillors that don't agree with going down this path for this reason. So, but it's not something that can be resolved in the context of this particular one. So if people don't support the submission, then it's actually just easier to vote against it rather than seek to amend this submission, because we cannot fix that problem in this piece of legislation. But thank you for raising it, and Dion will be very grateful, because in his absence we've got to this before he's got to the meeting, but it's precisely the point that he's been making. All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. So Gough and East. I would say Swiggs in his absence, but I can't. So he should have phoned in. Hey? Yeah, too late now. Item 16, Local Government New Zealand 2018 Conference and Awards. This is just about attending, agreeing. Your move?
Excuse me. Yep. The first recommendation is agreeing the members to go, and the second recommendation there is appointing you as the presiding delegate mayor, and then either delegating to you to appoint the alternate delegate, or at this time appointing the alternative delegate.
I get no power normally, I'll have it.
There's no names in.
Yeah, do we want to write names in? And if so, how many names?
Previously you've sent yourself and 5 to 6 councillors. It is in Christchurch this year, so there's no travel costs. And my registration is actually covered by the conference because I'm the host mayor, so
So that's actually an advantage to Christchurch. And
Just say no, I won't be going.
I'm
So.
happy to say no.
Councillor Chen has indicated he'd like to attend.
So Councillor Chen's already indicated to me that he would like to attend. So I've got Turner, Galloway, Chen, Cotter, Clearwater and Livingston. It sounds like a delegation. Thank you. Very good. And we're also authorising Melanie as the Zone 5 Community Board representative to attend the conference and for us to pay her conference registration, which we have done in the past for Mike Mora, and authorise Alexandra Davids again as the Zone 5 Young Elected Member representative to attend the conference and that the council pay her conference fee. We've done that over the last few years as well. Very supportive of that. So that's moved, and do I have a seconder? Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. Scandrit. I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Can someone send Jimmy a text? He'll be pleased. And then we've got item number 17, which are the Local Government New Zealand remits, and we're confirming a number of remits. I've got the note too that the proposed remit on improving water quality by banning copper brake pads has not been prepared, as Environment Canterbury is planning on making a remit on this topic, and that Christchurch City Council will second it. I think we'll just put, and Christchurch City Council will offer to second it, because I've spoken to, well, by email with the chair of Environment Canterbury this morning, who's confirmed that they are working on it and that they're working with our staff who have been doing some work on it for us over the last wee while. Now, is everyone comfortable with the generic sort of way that these have been described? Would someone like to move them?
The generic, the way they've been described, but we just added a point on with the electricity one that it's about driving the market. Yeah, that was captured, I think.
So prioritising the completion of renewable electricity generation projects. What's the?
It was actually just going to be in the content of the remit that we put forward. We weren't going to necessarily change too much of the...
So is there anything wrong with the generic description? What would you put? Sorry? No, it's fine. No, just say. I mean, it's easy to change. Prioritising the completion of renewable electricity generation projects.
Well, the intent of our original discussion at the beginning of last year was that we wanted the next all of government electricity procurement process to aim for it being fully renewable, because that would drive the market for renewables and drive more investment in renewable sources of energy. So that doesn't really capture the... No, and I'd seen that through, but it isn't. But it's not in the initial bit.
Okay, so
so it was the fact that we wanted the all of government
change
contract.
that to ensuring the all of government procurement process for electricity.
You could say prioritises renewable energy or something.
Yeah, prioritises.
Because I think our initial thing's
renewable
100% renewable, but it's not
electricity generation.
Yeah, doable right now. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And sorry, I should have done this much earlier. But just looking at the one on reducing the use of single-use plastic bags and plastic straws, there is a much bigger issue now around recycling, and that is that China is not accepting any materials that go into anybody's recycling.
Take out that.
And I'm just wondering if we shouldn't add to that.
And take out projects.
That, and that we ask the to push for regulatory action from central government for facilities for processing all recyclables within New Zealand. Because the world market has changed dramatically in the last 2 months. And there is now really not a world market.
Right, supporting the production and procurement of biofuels.
The plastic bags and the straws are actually the easiest.
Yeah, but why have we written reducing? Shouldn't we put minimising or eliminating? I mean,
Eliminating the use of single use, absolutely.
Yeah.
But then you've got the entire issue of what's in everybody's yellow bin, and the fact.
Yeah.
that
Okay. So change reducing to eliminating. So that's our objective, is to eliminate.
Yep. And then if we're seeking for action from central government, we also need it for the creation of facilities to process.
Maybe if you put sources after the word generation. Sorry, I'm just trying to get this right. And so if we can add another one after reducing the use of single-use plastic bags, so just add in another F. Yeah.
To create New Zealand facilities for processing all recyclables within New Zealand. The world market has changed, as you know.
Well, to adopt a New Zealand-wide approach to
processing
recyclable materials.
Yep.
To adopt a New Zealand-wide so dash wide. So it's New Zealand dash wide. So it's a New Zealand wide. Oh, sorry, you're over there. To adopt a New Zealand wide approach to processing recyclable materials
within New Zealand.
Within New Zealand.
Because we don't have the facilities at the moment to do it.
No. Oh, yeah. Yep. All right. No trouble, is it? You can just get on with that one. Yep. Anne?
Just looking at G and wondering if we could make that a bit gruntier. It just seems perhaps change the word views to concerns, and to review policy levers to strengthen the community's voice in reducing alcohol-related harm. It just seems a bit...
Sorry, so you want to say which?
Amending the Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act 2012 to reflect community concerns, and to review policy levers to
but what if
strengthen.
What if communities support a particular one? I think views is neutral, and it enables concerns to be expressed.
Okay. I was thinking that it was coming from the view that we were wanting to empower local communities more in dealing with their local issues rather than just a general kind of thing.
Well,
is that a legal thing?
Well, maybe it's better to write it, amending the Sale and Supply of Alcohol Act to ensure that community views are reflected in local decision making.
Perfect.
So that I think that's the intention.
Yeah.
Yeah, to ensure that community views are reflected in local decision making, but it's local decision making that we want. We don't want multiple appeals into the thing, and to review policy levers to reduce alcohol related. Yeah, that's right.
Great, thank you.
Yep, Pauline.
Just on the D, supporting the production and procurement of biofuels, including the reintroduction of subsidy schemes, because that's really where my idea originated from, that because it once was subsidised, and that's the issue, that it needs to be competitive in the market. So I think it's an important thing to address there, because the environmental benefits are huge, massive when you think about potentially running the buses on the biofuels instead of the diesel.
Did subsidies come up in the,
yes, I know, but in
the actual wording? Yeah, it's in the actual wording, so that's fine. Supporting the production and procurement of biofuels, including
so that's highlighted in there quite
including the reintroduction of subsidy schemes, subsidies is fine. Where appropriate, or subsidy schemes where appropriate. Subsidy schemes, full stop. Yep.
Thank you.
Subsidies. Oh, right. Subsidy schemes.
I know we're moving towards electric vehicles, but it will take time, and there'll be some vehicles that will probably stay on diesel, and if we can get them on biofuel, it'll be a huge help.
Yeah.
There won't be.
Yanni.
I'm not sure that people in Auckland will be very happy with no power and electric vehicles. So, but just under the remits, we're going to get additional information around background for each of them, and just wanted to check the process.
Yeah. They've been circulated.
Okay. Yeah. I just wanted at the appropriate time speak in strong support of one of them. Can we do it now? Or?
Well, are there any other questions or comments on the framework? Would someone like to move it? Or have we got that moved? Sarah, Mike? So, Yanni.
Yeah, I just wanted to strongly speak in support of G. This has been an issue that has been around for a long time, and particularly in Christchurch, my understanding is New Zealand has one of the highest outbreaks in the world of Legionella, and in Christchurch and in Canterbury, we're one of the most represented within New Zealand. This is very real. People have died and people have been hospitalised as a result of these outbreaks, and I think it's absolutely shameful the lack of progress from the previous government on this issue, and we've tried to talk informally with MB and with working groups in the past, but we need to get on top of this as much as possible, and it'd be really good to get LGNZ support. If you compare this, and I know that we're having to do stuff based on what happened in the Hawke's Bay over our drinking water, but this is a very real local issue that needs to be seen as a priority, because it's having a very real impact on people and communities in our city, and there has been a real lack of making it a priority. So I really welcome putting this amendment forward. It's a shame that we have to put an amendment through LGNZ to try and get government progress on this, but we've tried everything else and it's come to naught. So I'm very happy to support these remits.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there another item on the agenda?
What, you can't believe you finished this, did you?
No, but there was another item in the hub, and I can't open it now.
That was the draft submission to the fuel.
Oh, right. Okay, right, all right. So, I'd like to move now that we house the resolution to exclude the public set out on pages 124 to 126 of the agenda. Is this a record or?
Yep.
And that Paul Monroe, Leah Scales remain after the public have been excluded for item 19, and the draft statements of intent and the recommended appointment, etc. So I'll move that. Seconded by Andrew. Put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. So just if the people at the back can just give